5 million loans for cars are 90 days plus overdue. And a lot of that has to do with the pandemic, and we're going to see a huge spike of cars being repossessed. And so people are looking to alternatives of what can I do? And right now, I mean, just loans in general are skyrocketing. But in this aspect of like, what can I do? What's possible is most people don't know that you can actually refinance a car.
This is BetterWealth with Caleb Williams. We're talking about how to refinance the car on the BetterWealth Breakdown, where we're breaking down ideas, thoughts, and quotes from around the world to help you live a more intentional life. And it's interesting because everyone drives a car. Everyone at least knows somebody that has a car. And how you pay for that car is very important. We've gotten a lot of views and comments about some of the other concepts that we've done in videos around buying a car. And I find it interesting about this concept of refinancing the car. I know that you've done some research, and I'm looking forward to this episode, man.
Well, this kind of came from seeing a stat that over 5 million cars in the U.S. or 5 million loans for cars are 90 days plus overdue. And a lot of that has to do with the pandemic, and we're going to see a huge spike of cars being repossessed. And so people are looking to alternatives of what can I do? And right now, I mean, just loans in general are skyrocketing. But in this aspect of like, what can I do? What's possible is most people don't know that you can actually refinance a car, much like you can refinance a home. And there's a couple different options of one, if you already have a loan, you could go and refinance that. That could get a little bit tricky in its own right, though, because what's happening in America is we're pushing the loan terms further and further down the road. And it's kind of just kicking the can down the road. But this could be an aspect of freeing up cash flow, being able to refinance a car loan that maybe you had poor credit previously and want to get a lower rate, or the terms weren't good, or wants to lengthen the terms so that you have a lower payment. The other aspect is if you had a paid off car and you were strapped for cash, you can actually go back and do a cash out refinance on a car, which most people I don't think are aware of. And then the other aspect would be potentially doing a cash out refinance on your mortgage and taking that cash to pay off your car, and then which is basically wrapping your car loan into your mortgage. And this would be if you look at the math behind it and determine that, some people have car loans that are 7, 8, 9, 10, 12%. And if you can wrap that into the current mortgage rates of 2.5 to 3.5, that could be a good example to do that.
Yeah, no, I would say, like anything, there's really two decisions. Number one, do you need the money? Why do you need the loan kind of deal? And then if that's the case, what's the most efficient way to do that? And if you do own a residence and can refinance, it's a very interesting time. At the time of this recording, housing prices are at an all-time high, and interest rates are at an all-time low, which, by the way, they are correlated. But the cool thing is it creates an incentive to take a loan, because the number one, you can get a good valuation on your house, and then number two, you can get cheap money. And so even if you're paying off a loan and you have a paid off house or whatever, you could refinance, you could wrap that car into your mortgage or use a HELOC, and that could be a really powerful thing. A pretty crazy stat on how many people are late on cars. I'm always careful not to do predictions, but it is very interesting. Like, I feel like people would stop paying on their car before other things like housing, but it's very interesting that so many people are behind.
Well, and that doesn't even really include the people that are less than 90 days overdue. There's still a lot of people that are overdue that it was just like, this is the most severe aspect of being overdue, and that's where really the repossession comes into play. And last year there was forbearance for auto loans, and that's kind of coming to an end. And so there's going to be, I think, a bit of a spike in that. And some of the other stats that were interesting to me is that, number one, there's over 116 million car loans right now in the U.S. So that's like a little over 20% of people have an existing car loan. And again, like I said, the terms are getting further and further and further. The average loan term is 69 months with an average payment of $467 and an average balance of over $26,000. And right now, the average loan rate on those is 4.74%. And what's interesting is this all has a different dichotomy based on new cars, leased cars, and used cars. And I think the average payment on a new car is over $530 right now.
Wow.
And like I said, some of these loan rates are pushing out to 84 months.
Yeah. It's I actually did an episode with someone about real estate, and the comment was made, if you need to, massage the terms to make the purchase available, for instance, like if you need a 30-year loan to make that real estate property a good deal, you might want to say maybe this thing is not as good of a deal as I think. I feel like the same thing with a car. A lot of times people don't even know like what the car cost is. Like I was with a friend in Phoenix and I was asking him what the car cost, and like, I don't really know, but I know my payment.
Yeah.
And it's like that's exactly my point, is a lot of times we're overpaying on things because at the end of the day we live in I can afford this per month. And it's super interesting because low interest rates are pretty much financing our consumption.
Yeah.
And interest rates are either going to remain low, and we'll see if that happens. But if they do tick up, I think that's where our economy could take a hit. If right now interest rates are super low, we're seeing a trend. We'll see what happens. Again, we're not trying to predict anything other than get you guys to think differently. And the point is, the point of this episode is not saying don't take a loan. It's to be creative in, number one, what are you going to purchase? And number two, what is the most efficient way to purchase that? And in some areas, we could get more efficient with potentially wrapping that into a car or into a home. Is there anything else that is what we could do with the car?
Well, I think the big aspect, again, goes back to just the efficiency of what are you doing in the first place. Someone we spoke to recently, she had multiple different liabilities and was just fixated on, I need to get rid of my car payment because it's a car payment, and decided to lump sum pay that off, even though she had other liabilities at higher interest rates. And again, this was a potential opportunity for her to take a look at, okay, yes, I made that decision, but maybe I should go back and look at the math and say, maybe I need to refinance my car because like I said, she paid it off, and gain that monthly payment back so that she can tackle a higher interest debt. And again, it just comes down to the math, but I think the main purpose of this was to highlight that there are other opportunities, whether it's refinancing a paid off car, refinancing a car that you already have a loan on to have better terms, and or one of my favorites is to have consolidation. And if you can take advantage, like you said, of the high market rates in real estate right now and do a refinance in that and be able to wrap in other things that potentially have much higher interest rates, that could be a huge benefit for you.
One recommendation I would have is to actually audit your liabilities and just go down the list and saying, is this the most efficient thing? And start asking questions, because one little tweak in efficiency could save you hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Thank you so much for listening to the BetterWealth podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with the people that you know and love.